to the Bass Player University. This is George Mesa, and as you may have seen from the thumbnail, I have something very important to talk about. Because it's a never-ending quest for what is. It's a never-ending question from students, and especially if the student has had other lessons or did online YouTubing or lessons of any kind, I often get told before I say anything, my first scale I learned was a pentatonic scale. It's not troubling. It's actually very good for our fretboard. It's a healthy thing to do. But based on what I just played at the beginning there, I barely ever see even that simple idea of taking the scale. We'll call it a scale for a moment until I change the answer there. They take each note of the pentatonic, they go up one, do the pattern from there. I rarely ever see that. I usually see this. I see that over and over again. This minor pentatonic. There's a very good reason for that, and we'll certainly get into that in this episode. Is it a scale? Let's just answer the question outright, because what I just did at the beginning was exclusively pentatonic minor, G pentatonic minor, with rhythmic embellishment, slapping idea, like as if there was a drummer there. But the notes themselves were only pentatonic minor. It sounds good. It sounds usable. I left some mistakes in there willingly, and it's all part of the fun here at the Bass Player University. Please do visit my website, join the email list, and consider joining the university. I still give private lessons too, but I think the university is the best way to learn the most, the quickest. So, is it a scale? According to the thumbnail picture, an 8-rung ladder missing 2 rungs. It's incomplete. The concept, the primordial concept of pentatonic is very simply as a regular old-fashioned scale, 7 notes plus an octave, minus 2 notes. And let's just say the octave is out. Every scale really only has 7 notes. But not playing the final octave really does sound very unsatisfying. Something I've pointed out in the past, but listen, here's D major without the octave. Very tense, very dissonant. But incomplete without the octave. This is why I mentioned the octave. I happened to find a picture of a ladder with 8 rungs, just like an octave, right away. It was just a total coincidence. I thought I was going to have to make one, and it worked out great. So any pentatonic scale, penta, meaning 5, bende, as I know it in Greek, 5-note scale. 5 notes, the octave makes 6, doesn't count. Pentatonic, 5 instead of 7. History has shown us that this has survived all cultures. Very often you will hear minor pentatonic concepts and major pentatonic concepts, we'll talk a little bit about that too, being used in every culture I can think of. Chinese, Japanese, Native American, Indian, African, all African music, South American, jazz, blues, metal, definitely metal. Here's looking at you, Metallica, for using blues solos over songs that don't have it, don't belong with it. So it's everywhere. It is everywhere. I'm wearing a Sepultura shirt. Is Black Sabbath the origin of metal? Whether or not they are, tons of bluesy things. This means pentatonic. Pentatonic is an essential sound. It's an essential shape. And unfortunately, it is very often chains that bind us as musicians. We very often, if you didn't start with classical piano or violin training, or classical guitar for that matter, or upright bass for classical purposes, if you didn't start there, you may have learned pentatonic before almost anything else. You may have done it by accident. The fretboard just does it for you. It's almost 5-3, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 3-5, 3-5, 3-5. It's almost that. And one of the patterns I did, the third one, these are all notes of G minor pentatonic, starting from the fourth, C, D, F, G, B flat, C. G, G, B flat, C, D, F, G. That is one of the modes of pentatonic minor. And it's a very useful thing to know where this scale exists in all different directions and not get stuck to, I guess, what might be called the box pattern of, in this scenario, 3-6, 3-5, 3-5. Almost any bass line I can think of utilizes this often, even if the song is in major and doesn't have a B flat. It has a B. Still works. It works all the time. It's very hard to kill, so to speak. I don't want to use such a strong word, but it's hard to kill pentatonic minor. It's very good. It's very useful. Works for a lot of different practical applications. Why? It's really a chord. It's essentially a chord. How do we spell our chords? Root, third, fifth. And let's just say for practicality here, root, third, fifth, seventh, the next in the pattern, the next third. G minor 7 here. What are we adding? We're just adding the fourth, C. It's very, very much only a chord with an extra note. It's a minor 7th chord. It's just a chord. And it seems to be the one people learn before they even realize it. And again, nothing wrong with this. But it's not an official full scale. The full scale has much more information. This could be a mode. This could be Dorian mode. It could be Phrygian mode. We don't know. We don't have the 2nd or the 6th present in this pentatonic scale. We get 1, 3, 4, 5, 7 octave. We skip the 2. We skip the 6 of regular, old-fashioned, natural minor. So the short answer is no, this is not a scale. It's definitely not an actual scale. If you were to look up in the Harvard Concise Dictionary of Music and Musicians, which is just out of reach over here, this definition of scale does not include 5 notes only. It includes 7 notes to an octave in the Western musical tradition. But it's so effective that it deserves a label, it deserves respect, it deserves your time, and it should be used when needed. But what should it be used with? It should be used with when the time calls for it, like anything else. It really is that simple. I'm not trying to oversimplify this, but it really is that simple. You want to use this scale when it's appropriate, and it's often very appropriate. It helps us outline a scale. It helps us outline a minor 7 chord or just a minor chord really, really well. And without the third, we get the very typical. Oh, did I lower myself? Or I guess I lowered myself. Sorry. So it's just so useful. It's everywhere. It's all over the place. You can't get away from it. And the fretboard loves it. And our left hand finds it very comfortable. When people don't know what they're doing theoretically, these are the notes that come out. This is what works. This is what sounds good, doesn't clash with anything, and you don't need a ton of knowledge to use it well. You just need good rhythmic instincts. So, is there a major pentatonic? There certainly is. Just ask Stevie Wonder and many other, of course, musicians. But it follows all the same rules. The Chicken from Jocko is a very popular example. And Sir Duke, almost the entirety of that huge unison line in Sir Duke from Stevie Wonder is almost exclusively B major pentatonic. The chicken from Jocko is the bass line itself in the initial time that he throws it out there is almost exclusively B major pentatonic, but a different variety, which I'll mention in just a second. And the little riff from the chicken is actually ending on the 7th, B flat minor, just like I had before from G. B flat minor pentatonic. It's just minor pentatonic. It's so useful, so colorful even, without having a full scale. It's great. It works. It works well. And I often show my students how to take full advantage of it. Whether or not it's in a song, you can just learn how to use it in its own way just to make any old bass line. It's a good starting point for a bass line in almost any song. Find the root, go to that shape, see what happens. If it's wrong, maybe it's in major, maybe it just doesn't work. But it's a great starting point if you're totally in the dark about what to do. It provides the root, the fifth, and the octave, and a flat 7. This is the most common thing in rock music. And it's very common in most other styles as well. So, again, is there major pentatonic? Yes. When we do minor pentatonic, we almost always do root, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, octave. When we do major pentatonic, there's often 2 variations. We get 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, octave. It's a playful, happier sounding pentatonic. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the McDonald's theme. Right? So dumb, I know. But that is essentially major pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. That's it. Is that not it? So this is major pentatonic. Very useful as well for certain sounds, for certain ideas. Very uncommon as the driving force of an entire album. But minor pentatonic's always going to win that fight. But there's also the other variation, the 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 octave. We always have the root 3rd, 5th, 6th in major pentatonic. It's a question of whether we have the 2nd or the 4th. You hear a small color change there, and you need one when you need one, and you need the other when you need the other. I'm simplifying it, of course. There's always myriad of things to discuss here. But hopefully this gives you an idea of how to approach pentatonic. You can create any pentatonic you'd like right now. Write out any major scale from any note. Write out the major scale. Can't do it? Give me a call. Leave me a comment. This is what I do. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. I love helping people through this information. I do love people, but I love giving people insight into the process, the way I learned things, for example. And do it pencil and paper. Nothing wrong with that. Pen if you want, but use a pencil. It's music. So write out a major scale. X out. Very, very simple. Very scholastic, almost adolescent. X out. Don't even erase. X out 2 notes. Any 2 notes. Except the tonic. Except number 1. Otherwise, we don't really have an official anything. Remove 2 notes. Play that. There's a pentatonic scale. The more odd varieties of pentatonics remove 2 notes in a row. This is extremely uncommon. And some instrument limitations from back in the day, flutes or things like that, may just have that sound as a result. But even in the guitar grimoire, there's a few what sound like Southeast Asian pentatonic scales, and they skip 2 notes at a time. And they sound very unique, very different. If you stick to it, you can get the sound. But it's not as common to be comfortable in the hand. So just keep in mind that there really are quite a lot of variations of this. Pentatonic, this is a discussion that could go on forever. We're at 15 minutes. It can go on for a very long time, trust me. And I discuss this very thoroughly, whether in the university or with my private students. I like to show when songs use it. There it is again. And eventually it clicks. It is everywhere. I can use it all the time. But for now, I think your best approach would be to get a minor pentatonic in your hands, under your left hand fingertips. Try to use it from each individual note in that scale. And finally, and then we're back home. Try doing it without looking. I can't see myself now. My monitor is over here. It's a very good way for you to get fresh fretboard patterns, always a good thing. It forces you to be in complete command of that pentatonic scale. You can either say every note as you play them, or you can start to think to yourself, okay, second, third, minor thirds, almost exclusively depending on which one you're using. But you'll be more in tune with the scale, and you'll be able to get out of this one exact box pattern that we're mostly in. It'll help you venture out. They all look very similar. You can't really guess. You kind of have to know. Once you leave that box pattern, you have to know where the rest of the scale is. And it really does give you better fretboard knowledge. So experiment. Move it around. Learn Sir Duke from Stevie Wonder. If you learn that, you've got a real good command of B major pentatonic from all the way up here to all the way down here. And I don't know what could be better than that if you want to really get into the major pentatonic sound. So I hope that this gave you some stuff to think about. Did I settle the debate? I don't think there is a debate, very honestly. It's not a scale. It's a chord. This would be G minor add 11, if you want to think of it that way. It doesn't really function that way. It doesn't function that way. It functions as G minor 7 with a passing tone. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% on that, but that's what it functions as. It often sounds that way. It doesn't sound like an add 11 to me at all. It sounds like G minor. G minor pentatonic is what it sounds like. It's its own thing. It deserves a label. It deserves respect. Use it. Don't abuse it. And try to learn other things so you don't only use it. Because I'm assuming at least some of you out there are saying, yeah, I actually do use this very often as my go-to. So find ways around it by moving it around. Start from a different note this time. Take that into your practice sessions. And put a drum beat to it, put a metronome, do nothing. Just play. Experiment, move the pentatonic around. And don't forget the importance of going backwards. Many people don't often go backwards. Many people don't do that, as a matter of fact. So I think that's another very useful way to make sure that you really do know it. There are a lot of situations and a lot of musical ideas that come easily, and then we don't utilize them often, and if you don't use it, you lose it. The only way to make sure it's there is to just keep it there, keep doing it, keep a practice log. What did I do last week? What did I do this week? You may have forgotten half the things you did, or a few little things that you really liked. And you don't keep practicing, you don't work them into your playing, they're not going to be there for you. And you'll go right back to, you're going to go right back to that again. And there's more. There's always more to life. There's more to pentatonic. And there is a lot more to the Bass Player University. So please do. Again, subscribe. Join the email list. You can contact me right in the comment section of this video, or you can get more of my contact info from the show notes of this video and all of them, all of the different videos I have here. If this is your first time, check out all the other stuff I have. And please do leave a comment. Let me know what you think, if this gave you new ideas, or if it helped you remember old ideas. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.